Hello and welcome to Overcome a Mental Health podcast. I'm excited for this episode. I have on the show with us tonight, Josh Copeland. Josh, we're just going to go ahead and go right in and dig in with your story. Josh is here to speak to us about how he was able to overcome anxiety and depression, amongst other things.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for having me, Travis. I'm excited to get to the conversation. So my name is Josh Copeland. As Travis said, I'm a motivational speaker. I travel the country and I speak about mental health, emotional wellness, character development, leadership, ultimately how to become the best version of yourself and what that looks like for whatever stage you're at in your life. And so, for me, I grew up in Fairborn, Ohio. It's right by Dayton. If you're not familiar with that is, it's a hour kind of north of Cincinnati, hour south of Columbus. So Southwest Ohio. Have kind of a biggish family, if you will. I grew up with four brothers, and then my parents took in two of my cousins when I was a little younger, and one of my cousins that they took in had a baby. So it was a lot of us in the house kind of growing up in early childhood. And because of that, so many of us in the house, my parents put us into sports. And so they put us into sports as a way to just kind of keep us active. So many boys in the house, just kind of run off some energy, keep you out of trouble. And because of that, and having a lot of older siblings, I got to play with them a lot. And so I became pretty decent at a young age at sports just because I got to play against my older siblings in baseball, basketball, football. We're a big baseball family. And so when I got to play kids my age, it was a little easier because they wasn't as fast, they wasn't as big, they wasn't as strong as my older brothers. So I had some success early on because of that. And that led to me going into high school, being able to play varsity two sports as a freshman, and ultimately led to me getting a scholarship to play football at the University at Buffalo, which I'm very blessed to have played there, graduated from there. And I kind of let preference everything I'm about to say by telling a little bit about my story so you understand kind of where I am and who I am and where I come from, because sports plays a huge part in my life. Like most people, it played a huge part in life. But for me, because I was pretty good at a young age, everybody around my town, having so many brothers, my town's not super big, so kind of everybody knows everybody, if you will. Um, because I was pretty good at sports at the young age, sports became my identity. That's how everybody knew me. That's how I kind of knew myself. Um, Ever since I would probably say I was sick, from about 6 years old to 22, 23 when I got done playing in college. Um, I would say about 80% of the people that I met from that during that time frame, I met in some way, shape, or form through sports. So whether that was a coach, whether that was a teammate, his family, coach's family, friends, everybody I kind of knew that I was involved in outside of like my family and the church that we went to, I knew in some way or shape or form through sports. And so that kind of became who I was, and I didn't know how to function outside of being an athlete. Playing three sports and all year round, that's just what we did. Right? It was just what we did. So, and when I didn't realize this until I graduated, and I can kind of get into the story about how the depression and everything kind of kicked in when I graduated. But looking back on my life, I didn't realize I was showing signs of depression and anxiety at a real young age. But because I was always in sports and always was in school and always had something to do, it was easy to kind of hide it. It was easy to not address it. And of course, being, and this was late 90s, early 2000s, right? And um, growing up, mental health was not talked about. It was not a thing that was even mentioned. Depression, anxiety, none of that was even in anybody's thoughts. So just, hey, you're dealing with it, get over it, right? Like, stop being soft, get over it. You're playing
I,
sports, you have to be mentally tough.
yeah, I
And
still feel sorry. I still feel like
oh,
it's that way to a point.
oh yeah,
Just
yeah, yeah. I think it is. I think some people, it's starting to change a
mhm.
little bit where you're having these conversations in school more. And when I go speak to high school kids, or if I speak at a school assembly or college or whoever I work with, it's always part of the conversation. And sometimes I like to tell I like to tell kids, and there's a balance, right? Because yes, you want to take care of your mental health, but you also can't use that as an excuse not to do what you need to do. And I think that's where it's a balance of, okay, I still have to take care of my mental health, but I also have homework and a test and 4 assignments due tomorrow that I have to get done. You know what I mean? I this being a parent, right? It's like, as a dad, I have all this stuff going on, but as soon as I get home, I got to be dad and I got to be a husband. So I can't let anything take away from that, regardless of what I have going on in my own personal head and everything. So um, I just think it's an interesting conversation to have, and you can have it's talked about differently depending on the age and the generation you're talking to it about. And I think that's where the dynamic is, especially like in a workplace, or especially somewhere where you have multi-generational gaps, or whatever, if you call it, working in the same spot. So they're all looking at each other in a different way regarding mental health and regarding all these things. So it's an interesting conversation for sure. So I think, trying to go back to oh yes. So when I graduated college, okay, and I came back home, I really struggled with identity, and I really struggled with who I was and which direction I wanted to go in my life. And I came home and I felt like a failure. Uh, Thought I was going to go to NFL. Never really was not never really arrogant. I was just confident in my ability. And when you're able to have any type of success at sports, and not only sports, but in life. All right. When you're kind of good at something, especially at a young age, people tend to love you more for what you can do than who you are. And that's where it really got me, was people started to love the idea of me being an athlete. And I didn't know life without being an athlete. So I started to love and try to develop Josh the athlete, and never really took time to develop Josh the person, because I just didn't think it would ever end. Hey, I was just like, I want to play until I'm 38 years old, retire, have millions of dollars, be set, be fine. And the reality, when that didn't happen and that set in, I was lost. I was lost, and moved back home. Um, and living with my brother, not really making money. So for the first time in my life at 24 years old, I was failing at something. And and not and it's kind of weird, because I never really want people, I never want people to feel sorry for me and feel like, oh, he's trying to get sympathy. He was a Division I athlete, if you will. He had a free college. He doesn't have debt. What is he depressed about? So what do you got? What are you anxious about, Josh? You just came back from playing college football. And so I internalized all that. So I didn't tell people, because I didn't want it to feel like, oh, woe is me kind of thing, and but I was struggling, and I didn't know what to do. And I started applying for jobs and I wasn't getting any. And so, like I said, for the first time in my life, true adversity had hit. It's different with adversity in sports because you have a coach, you have a game plan, you know what to do, you know what you need to work on, you have practice, you can work on these things all the time. And then when adversity hits in the game, you have your training and the coaches and your teammates to fall back on. Sometimes when adversity happens in life, you don't have a coach to help you through it. Sometimes when adversity happens in life, you don't have nobody, no other teammate to pick up the slack the way you're slacking. You know, if I got beat in a coverage and we got a sack, we won that play, right?
Mm-hmm.
But in life, sometimes you just one-on-one with life and no help. And no help at all. And so you have to live with the result, good or bad. And so it was a reality check really, really quickly. And I learned a lot about myself during that time. And it was an interesting time because I didn't know what to do and talk about depression and anxiety. Now I'm starting to feel all these emotions again that I always suppressed. And now I have to start addressing them. So yeah, at any moment you can come in, you can comment, you know, ask question, whatever the case. Or I can keep going. It's up to you.
I am the same way. It almost takes some time to like realize like what's actually going on, like when it comes to anxiety and depression. It's like with my side of things, like I didn't admit it for years. Like my fiance at the time, now my wife, was saying, you know, I've got a problem. Like there's something's going on. You need to get it looked at. And I'm like, no, I think I'm fine.
Yeah. Yeah. It's tough because if you don't know the right way to articulate what you're going through, you don't know what to label it, you don't know what to call it, and you don't want to like link yourself to
Mm-hmm.
depression. You don't want to link yourself to anxiety.
So when all this stuff started happening, what mechanisms did you use to start coping?
Yeah, so I did a terrible job of coping with it when I first was going through it because like I said, it was at a time when I was lost. So and when you're lost, whether it's spiritually, mentally, physically, you just don't know what direction to go. That's a very delicate time because I started just clinging to whatever would give me attention. I started clinging to whatever would make me forget this feeling that I'm feeling because I don't know how to address it. And I don't like feeling this. I don't like feeling like I don't want to leave my house for a couple of weeks. I don't like going down a dark hole where I don't want to talk to somebody. I'm a real social person. So all these things, I'm starting to see different versions of myself that I would just categorize and just decide in college, oh, I'm just tired. I had a long work week. You know, I had practice. I'm just going to sleep all day on Saturday. And then Sunday we got to go in or whatever the case may be. And so for me, I turned to alcohol. That was my first way to cope with these things. And I didn't drink at all in high school or college. I was the straight and narrow, the designated driver. My teammates knew they could call me at any time and I would be there and I didn't drink. And so when I got home and I was like, man, why am I like everybody that I know that drinks seems like it's a blast. You know, they make it seem like it's just
Mm-hmm.
the best thing to have such a great time when I pick my friends up. They're all laughing and stuff. So I started to drink and I quickly became addicted to the numbness that alcohol brings. That was what I quickly became addicted to.
Yeah, it's crazy, just like how much like addiction affects your personal life too. And it's like
Yeah,
it goes like hand in hand to me with like mental health as well.
100%. It does. It does. And it's one of those things that I never really realized until, I was in it, and I was abusing alcohol for about 3 years. And it was 2 or 3 years, and it was one of those things where I never really knew how bad it was until I took a step back and tried to, oh, I gotta do something different, because you're right. You start to slowly spiral. And for me, I was creating a new norm for myself, slowly but surely. And as before, my norm and my routine was to wake up, go to practice, go to school, work out, play a game. In the off season, it was the same thing: wake up, practice. So, in growing up, I always had something I was trying to achieve. Let's say that it was always a goal. It was always, okay, I didn't like the way this season ended or how I performed. I have now 4 months to get ready for the next season, right? 5 months, so I can train. So it was always something to chase.
It's almost like when you get rid of that structure in life and you get in one of your depression modes or having, in the middle of an anxiety attack or whatever you want to call it, and there's no structure around it, like things just get worse and it's easier to dig yourself into a hole.
Oh, 100%, 100%. Because as things are getting worse and you're trying to, for me, I was trying to dig myself out of a hole, but I didn't know I was digging one deeper.
Been there, done that.
I was digging, but I thought I was like climbing out of it, and I was actually digging deeper and not knowing. And so it was definitely a delicate spot. And so I started to drink. I got a DUI coming home from a bar. I was a mile away from my house, and it was so. Then the reality, the shame, the guilt, the embarrassment starts to kick in. Now I start to gain weight because I'm drinking a lot. So people are starting to notice. So now I'm physically not looking like myself, and I'm mentally not feeling like myself. So it's complete loss. And so I didn't share any of that with my brothers. They just thought, oh, Josh is gaining a little weight. He's back home. He's not working out like he used to, kind of thing. And, it was really, really a trying mental time. And I had a bit bad panic attack. It was a time when, you just trying to figure out stuff, and I wasn't doing it the right way.
And at what point, like what made you kind of get to that point where you're like, you know what, I have a problem. Like I need to do something about it. Like what was that kind of, I want to say like rock bottom, not rock bottom moment for you?
Yeah, I think for me it was I live with my brother, I think I said at the time. And um I really couldn't keep a job, so I was being a bus boy at a restaurant, Texas Roadhouse, back in my hometown. And so, like, the reality just kind of stud in that, like, here I am, 24, 25 years old, have a college degree, just played college football, Division I football. Now I'm back home and I'm busting tables of people I went to high school with. I'm busting tables of like their parents who knew me since I was like 7 years old. I'm busting tables of high school kids now who used to look up to me when they was in like elementary school, being the athlete in high school. So it was like a humbling, kind of like a weird time where it was like, well, this is what life is right now, and I don't like it. So that kind of propelled the drinking even more, because I was like, I'm embarrassed to go to work every day, but I have to go because I had to make some type of money, even though it's not a lot. But I'm just busting tables so I can go to work drunk, for real. It's just like I'm literally wiping off the table and then taking it back there. Like, I don't have to be super sober for this.
Mm-hmm.
And so I found myself drinking 6, 7 days out the week, like all day. Like it was just, I was constantly in a state of being drunk and intoxicated. And a thing that kind of brought me that was a real reality check, was after the DUI. And it was, and then here's another kind of crazy thing that happened. It was once one thing happened, it was like a domino effect. Then stuff started happening quickly. It was like a slow burn, and then once one thing fell over, then it was like out of control.
The spirals and spirals. Yep.
Spirals really fast. It's like a slow time to get there. And then once it does, an event happens, something happens that in life, then it just like, you're just on the roller coaster now. You're like, I don't know what's going on. I'm just hanging on. And so that was me. I had a DUI. And then about a couple months after DUI, I was like, I can't drive anywhere. So now I have to have a designated driver. So I'm drinking even more now because it's like, I can't even drive if you want me to. I got the papers that say I can't. So, haha, you got to take me. And so, and one night, we're hanging out with my friends, and I start to smoke too. So now I'm smoking. I once I never really smoked anything, so I'm starting to smoke weed, and nothing wrong with it for whatever your beliefs are. But for me, I just I didn't know how my body was going to react to this. So I went from 24 years of doing nothing to now I'm drunk constantly, and then was smoking, and then doing edibles, and it was just a whole concoction in my body that I didn't know how it was going to react. And so one night we go out with my friends, and I make a long story short, one night we go out with my friends, and we drinking, smoking. They give me an edible because they're like, weed makes me like really paranoid. So I have the alcohol, then I had the paranoia like right on top of it. And then the anxiety starts to kick in, and then everybody's watching me. And, and it's all in like happening in real time. And so my friend gives me an edible. He said, hey, eat this, you'll calm down. I didn't know how strong the edible was. And he just said, don't eat the whole thing. But me being drunk, high, and at a bar, I just eat the whole thing. And so it all hits me at one time when we get back to his apartment, and we're watching the movie like The Matrix. And so now I'm laying on the couch and we're watching The Matrix, and there's a scene where like the metal octopus, and like the first one, there's like this octopus looking thing is like attacking this ship, and it's attacking this ship, and I'm laying on the couch, and then I just see it just start crawling out of the TV. And I'm like, oh, this is bad.
Full on tripping.
Yeah. I was like, I don't know what's going on, but like, I've never been in this situation. So I don't know how to like calm down. I don't know. So I start panicking and thinking it's coming after me. And my friend lives on a college campus. And so I get up, it's January 18th. And so it's in Ohio, it's cold. I get up and I start running down this college campus in a full-fledged panic attack, thinking that this octopus looking thing is coming to get me. So when you ask what's the rock bottom, it was that moment when I'm running down a college campus in a panic attack, drunk, high, not knowing what's going on, trying to figure out something, not knowing who I can call, because quite frankly, I didn't want to call the police because like, I'm a bigger black dude, and I don't want, I don't know how I'm going to react if they come try to help me. And now I don't know, right? I don't know how I'm going to react if I see somebody. So I ran about 5 miles home, and I woke up in the fetal position in the bathtub because that's the only place I felt safe. And I woke up like my brother banging on the door because he thought I had died because my phone's dead. The front door is wide open, but the bathroom door is locked. So he just doesn't know what's going on. So that was kind of a long-winded answer when you asked what was my rock bottom. I kind of had to give you context to the situation. And so I woke up and I'm in the tub, and my brother looks at me. He said, man, I don't know what's going on, but you got to do something. And for me, it was, I was like, you're right.
And at this point, did you have to, like, what did you do? Did you have to, like, seek therapy, or did you do it all yourself?
So I did it mainly myself. I found therapy and I found speaking to be therapeutic. So I was always speaking to the younger groups like under me when I was growing up. So if I was in high school, I was speaking to the middle school students about making the right choices. Right? I was always a good kid in that aspect. I was very respectful, never really got in trouble, wasn't a troublemaker. I just kind of did what I had to do and then kind of went about my day. And so I would always be asked to do community service, and I loved doing that. And then when I got to college, it was the same thing. I got to college, I would go around to the local high schools in Buffalo, work with the community service team, and we would constantly do stuff like that. So when I came home and I was actively in the situation I was in, and mentally, my high school would ask me to come back and speak to a college and career readiness class. So I would do that. And so that was a little bit of therapy in that sense. And it kind of, and a crazy part is like sometimes I would go there drunk or hungover, from the night before, and it'd be like 8 a.m. on a Friday, and I got to be there to talk to these high school kids, and it's like their first period, so they're half asleep, and I'm hungover, and so, but in the same time, it was when I say it was therapeutic because I got to tell something about myself to somebody, whether they listened or they didn't, but I got it out of my head and I vocalized something.
Yeah, that's one thing I'm finding out, like since I've started this podcast, is speaking up and telling your story and thinking that there's whether somebody gets something out of it or not, like it's very therapeutic. The hardest part for me is being vulnerable, which I'm still learning to do.
Mm. Yeah, the vulnerability part about it is something that I'm a lot better at now that I'm kind of removed from the situation,
Mm-hmm.
but it's hard to be vulnerable when you're in the middle of something because you're trying to figure out how to get out of it and you don't want to keep reminding yourself that you're in it.
Correct.
And it's easier when you're out of it to say, man, last year I was here and let me tell you. And there's some there's some truth to that, and there's some truth to being authentic, and people can relate to that and they can relate to authentic stories. But sometimes, and this is the hard part when you talk about mental health, the hard part is when you're in the middle of it, speaking up. That's the hard part.
Yeah, and I think I told this to somebody else I talked to, but I've had this idea to start this like for a long time,
Mhm.
and I feel like I couldn't start it because I was still going through the motions and dealing with all the crap that I was dealing with. And once I figured out how to get past that, I was like, you know what? This is going to be really easy for me to do now.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the hard part is because sometimes, and I find this out even speaking now, I will be speaking and I will be going through something personally myself outside of speaking. And I would have to help and encourage people that I'm talking to overcome their adversity, to overcome things in their life. So I'm actively trying to get people to do that while I'm still going through something in my life. You see what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So it sometimes it can come off as a little hypocritical. It can feel like it's not whatever it is you guys feel like because you're like, I'm helping you try to get through something, but I'm going through something too. And so it's hard to kind of balance that.
Yeah. So those moments when like you're giving a speech or whatever, trying to help somebody out, and you kind of think, oh, like I'm going through this. Like, do you just basically work past it? Like, is there some kind of trick that you have to do to get through the speech, or I mean, I and that's yeah, if that makes any sense. Like, I'm just curious, like how that works. Like, if obviously it's like it's your job, is what you do for a
Mhm.
profession.
Yeah. Yeah. It's I've learned to navigate that now a lot better. I've been speaking for, like I said, since college and high school. So um, I've learned to kind of how to navigate those situations. And a lot of times, what I do is I I learned to kind of act like I'm an audience member. So act like I would be telling this to myself, if that makes sense.
No, it certainly does.
So if I'm up there talking, I'm not necessarily talking to them about getting through their stuff. I'm trying to motivate myself to get through what I'm going through. It's just like it's like you can get through here. So I'm trying to hype myself up and
Yeah.
speak to myself through the avenue of talking to other people. So that's what the therapeutic part for me is still now. It's I can I can, it's one of those things. It's like I can, kind of do as I say, not as I do kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I say that because I'm actively trying to, I try to live everything I preach. And sometimes in order for me to know what to talk about and how to articulate it on stage, I have to go through some things myself so I can know what that feels like, so I can
Yeah.
relate to be like, I know exactly what this feels like because I just went through it. And now how can I articulate it and can I talk to myself while trying to talk to you?
That makes sense. Um, let's see. Sorry, I lost my place.
No, you're all right.
So, like, how do you, like, today, do you still have, like, any issues with depression and anxiety or alcohol or anything? Like, if so, how do you manage it, like, in present day life?
Yeah. And I think what I realize is that I have kind of, I say, depressive episodes where I just like kind of shut down for a couple days. I'll have some anxiety kind of issues where like I can't sleep because I'm so like my mind's wandering and I'm so anxious about the next day, or I'm worried if this is going to happen. So I have those. And so what I realize is the idea is not to not have them. The idea is to know how to manage them when they come
Exactly.
and just accept that they're going to happen, And so a lot of times what I tell a lot of people is, you have to find moments throughout your day where you can be selfish for you. And it can be 10 minutes, it can be 20 minutes. I know people have families that have different responsibilities. So it's really hard to find any time to yourself. But for me, that time to myself, whether I wake up earlier than I have a she's about to be 5 in like 2 weeks, 5-year-old daughter and a wife. Do I wake up earlier than them and just get some time to myself? Or do I stay up later and get some time to myself? Or do I kind of go on a drive? Like there's some time when I have to do something for myself to either clear my mind. I love to golf. So sometimes I'll go out and golfing or go to the driving range. But there's something that you have to do that's only for you, that nobody else can interrupt, whether that's playing with Legos, like not playing with making Legos, whether that's drawing, art, whatever it is. All right. And so that's what I found is I have to create time for myself and be there for myself so I can be there for other people.
Nice. You said golf is one of those things for you. Is there anything else that you do?
Um, I like golf is up there, and golf kind of replaced all the competitive juices that I have. It kind of because it's one of those things you can never perfect it, so you're constantly. So once again, it's that chase,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's like I'm constantly chasing, trying to be better at it, and it's extremely difficult. So that's what I I love to do. I, obviously spend time with my family, my wife, my daughter. And then also it's trying different things. I think that's what I love to do is to learn. So I'll try something, whether it's cooking or whether it's art or whether it's whatever it is. I just think there's time that you have to like explore as well. So what you like to do and do that, but then there's also time when you got to explore and try to learn something new, and that's what I love to do.
Nice. Yeah, it's funny that you brought up cooking because like I've learned in the last like year that that's one thing that really like calms my anxiety. So I end up cooking a lot of our meals, and I don't know if it's necessarily because I love it, but once I start doing it, like follow a recipe, like I'm just calms me. So it's like even if the kids are in the background, I can deal with everything. Like it's just like
Yeah.
like suits my nerves or whatever you want to say. Like it's, but I think another one for me would be like music. I can put on some of my heavy metal and just sit there and listen or read a little bit.
Yeah.
So like you said, it just takes 10 minutes.
Mhm. It takes 10 minutes. I love that. I like to meditate as well. And sometimes at night or in the morning, that'll be what I take 10 minutes to like just meditate, focus on breathing, try to clear my mind. If I had a real busy day, then if I meditate at night, it would just try to be to relax and get rid of some of the stress and anxiety of just sitting there in silence. And that's scary because when you finally sit down in silence, the only thing that can move is your mind. And sometimes
Yeah.
that's scary.
So when I sit in silence, sometimes I wonder what my kids are up to.
Yes. Yes.
I wonder if
Yes.
they're like flooding the house or if they're making a mess.
It's kind of, it's kind of one of those things where it's like, if I sit in silence, because we're so used to moving
Mm-hmm.
and we're so used to, and that's part of anxiety as well, is always feeling like there's something that you have to do or something's going to happen wrong. It's that always the underlying fear that if I'm not around to control something, something's going to happen.
What are the like major things in life that you would say like give you anxiety?
That's a great question. I think for me, outside of like the the safety of like my kid, right? Like that's if she's not around me, then it's always you're wondering where she at. Is she safe? Is she safe at school? Is she safe at grandma and grandpa's? Like, am I just going to get a call randomly? Like, so that. But I think majority of parents, if not all, kind of have that kind of always underlying. So, but one thing that truly kind of gives me anxiety, that kind of keeps me up at night, that I worry about is failing. I don't want to say failing because I'm not scared to fail. I think one thing that truly worries me is me trying as hard as I can and doing all the right things and it's not working out.
Yeah.
That what keeps me up.
Yeah, I can understand that. I think one of my biggest issues would be like I had a time where I got laid off like 3 times in 7 years.
Uh,
It was never like performance based. Like I've always performed really well. It was all like, like budget issues or one of the companies got bought out, stuff like that. So now it's like I have this fear of like always losing my job and not being able to provide for my family.
yeah. Yeah. Wow.
And then just anything that I can't control, like when it comes to my kids' bedtime, I can't control it. So it just drives me up the wall. Like the other night, it was so bad that like, because in my mind, I'm like, okay, well, things have to go this way. They have to be a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
So when my kids don't follow that, like it drives me nuts. So the other night I was like, I have to walk out. I told my wife, I was like, I have to walk out of the room. I have to calm down for a minute and then I'll be back in here. And she said, okay, go do what you need to do. It only took like 2 minutes and I was able to do like a breathing exercise and I went back in and I was good.
Yeah. And I think that's beautiful that you kind of know what you need to do. And because, obviously, being overstimulated is a real thing.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes when you get overstimulated, especially about stuff you can't control, it feels like you're just kind of like spinning and nothing can stop it. It feels like everything is just chaotic. There's all this stuff that's going to go wrong. And so what I had to truly learn to do, and sports helped out with this a lot growing up, is a coach used to, there are all the coaches that I've had always used to say something along the lines of control the controllables, right? Control what you can control. Everything else outside of your control, you can control how you react to it. So you can't control the situation, but you can control how you react to it. So when I get in a situation where I can't control the actual thing that's going on, I always take a step back and what can I control in this situation? Sometimes it's my reaction. Sometimes it might be, I can't handle this, so I got to leave. I can control that for a little bit. And then let me come back when cooler heads can prevail, right?
Exactly.
But that's something that you can control. And so for me, like I said, it's trying to, in those situations when I can't control something, or in those situations where like I'm trying as hard as I can and I still not getting the result, all I can control is my effort.
Yeah. And it's, you kind of mentioned it before. It's kind of just learning when you're overstimulated so you can make the right move.
Yeah. And that takes some time to know and admitting that, hey, it's okay for me to take a step back right now. Like there's this, even when I talk with people and there's like this idea that everybody has that I have to fit this type of mold of a person. There's like this imaginary person that everybody's trying to live up to, right? And it's like I'm trying to live up to some type of standard that either I set or somebody set for me. But there's this imaginary, invisible, perfect person that everybody's trying to live up to. And if I don't do what I think that person would do, then I'm failing. And that's not the case at all.
Yeah. And I honestly think that like our world or our society kind of teaches that. Like we have to fit within a mold. It's not okay to feel down. It's not okay to feel anxiety when in reality it is. Like it's part of life.
Yeah, it's all these things are they're human emotions. Right? Like
Mm-hmm.
they're just human emotions, and you go through the emotions based on situations, and I think that's the beauty of life, is being able to experience everything that life has to offer: the good, the bad, the sad, the unexpected, the frustration. That's all part of existing in this life. And I think the moment we can accept that all these things are going to happen, it's just a matter of when.
Mm-hmm.
I need to be prepared for when they do, not try to prevent them from happening.
Yeah, good stuff. Like Seth, in dealing with like the struggles that you did deal with, like how did that change your perspective on life?
Mm. I became extremely forgiving towards myself, and like forgiving myself, because I used to be really, really hard on myself. and not wanting to make a mistake and trying to be perfect, trying to be this perfect version of me. And so I learned to not try to live up to anybody's expectations but my own. And then allowing me and forgiving me and giving myself grace to make mistakes while trying to be the best version of myself.
That's a good thing to have, because I feel like it's always hard to forgive yourself.
Yeah. 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 It's hard to forgive yourself and then somebody who done something wrong to you. Those two are the hardest. And sometimes it's harder to forgive yourself because that's one of the hardest things is living with the repercussions of a decision that you made. That's one of the hardest things, is because there's no telling when that's going to die down. Right. And it's kind of like one thing, you can choose your actions, you can't choose how people respond to your actions. So if you do something and it affects somebody else, you can apologize all you want, but it's up to them to either forgive you or not hold a grudge. And it could be a month, it could be a year, or you could never talk to that person again. And they never choose to talk to you. And you just have to live with that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the hardest thing about it, is making mistakes and living with the repercussions of your mistakes and having to still forgive yourself in that. So for me, what I try to do to help out with those is, once again, knowing that I'm still going to make mistakes and just accepting that that's part of life. It allows me to have pure intentions every single day, because the intention is what I can rest on, not the result.
Awesome. Good stuff.
I appreciate it. Yeah, that's just how I do. I'm like, if I go every day with the right intentions, with trying to do the right thing at the right time, at the right moment when it calls for it, regardless of the outcome, I can sleep at night saying, hey, I tried my best. I pure intentions always allow me to sleep better than if I try to manipulate or, trying to take
Yeah.
advantage of something.
Yeah. I think trying your best that's in the end, that's like what matters.
Yeah. Once again, that's all you can control. That's all you can control in this life. And, as my daughter is getting older, she's starting to get out, be out of the house and being active more. And, starting to be influenced by friends and things like that. And so I can't control what she consumes or what she sees when she's outside the house. All I can control is trying to be the best version for her while she's in my presence, and emulate how she should respond
Mm-hmm.
through my actions, and hoping that by me doing what I can control, she will see how to navigate certain situations and respond in certain situations.
Yeah. Yeah. And my daughter's pretty much same age as yours, and that's a hard thing to do too.
It's extremely difficult because
Very challenging.
they're challenging, and they pick up on everything. So now I have to constantly watch my facial expressions, my body language, what I say. I have to constantly watch those, not when like I'm laughing and joking, but when I'm really frustrated.
Mm-hmm. They pick up on it quick.
Yes, they do. And they're like, oh, that's how you're supposed to respond when you're frustrated.
Yeah.
And I had to constantly like, no, 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 like daddy just has a lot going on right
Yeah.
now. Sorry.
Daddy should not have reacted that way. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And I also think, just the parenting thing, I think for me, I want my daughter to see and experience me saying I made a mistake. because I want my daughter to trust me, but I don't want her to think I'm perfect.
Yeah, it's funny that you said that. Sorry, I'm kind
No,
of
you're
sounding
good.
off here.
You're good.
I did something. This was a couple weeks ago. Like I made a mistake. It was like I can't even remember what it was. Like I spilled something of hers or something on accident, and I'm always like, if they spill something, like, we, like, it's not a problem. Like, let's clean it up. You can, I can get you more milk or whatever it was. Like, it's not an issue. So I try to never get mad for them spilling something. And I spilled something, and she looks at me, and in the same tone that I use, she says, "It's okay, Daddy. We all make mistakes." And she went and grabbed like a paper towel and started cleaning it up for me. She's like, "I'll help you."
Mm, yeah, that's beautiful, and you won't really know that they're watching until a situation like that happens.
Mhm.
Because you're just doing stuff just naturally and trying to be patient and stuff with them, and then when a situation like that happens and they emulate it, you're like, oh, you're watching, and that's
Yeah.
beautiful. That's beautiful, man. It's being a parent is one of the best blessings that I could ever ask for. And it's scary to see different versions of yourself as a child.
I totally agree.
That's scary. You're like,
My
oh, I know exactly why you did that.
Yeah, my wife and I will be like, something will happen. We're like, okay, well, does he get that from you or does he get that from me?
Right.
So,
Right. Which side is that coming out of? Because now you know how to address it, right? And
yeah.
so yeah, it's
Hey,
interesting.
back to mental health side of things. I just have like one more, maybe two more questions here for you.
That's fine. I
Yeah.
like I said, I'm
Yeah.
however long you want to go, I'm good.
What is one thing that you wish that people understood? Like, well, yeah, let's see. What is one thing that you wish people understood about mental health and addiction that like might come across like that most people are like, it might be I'm trying to think how to word it. Well, I missed a word. What's one thing you wish more people understood about mental health and addiction?
Mm, that's a great question. Um, I think one thing that I wish people knew or understood more is that mental health and addiction, they don't discriminate. It doesn't matter your race, it doesn't matter your color, it doesn't matter your gender, it doesn't matter how much money you have or how little money you have. It doesn't matter where you grew up, it doesn't matter if you're single or if you're married with 10 kids. Mental health struggles and addiction comes for everybody at some point. And when I say comes for everybody, it's not that it's like actively, if this analogy, right? It's not like it's actively
Mm-hmm.
like coming at you, but there's opportunities for it. There's opportunities for your life to spiral out of control and you to pick up a bottle or you to turn to a substance to kind of remove yourself from that reality. There's an opportunity in life for you things to just not happen time and time again and time again, and you not know how to react to it. And the only thing feel comfortable doing is secluding yourself. Like those are going to happen in life no matter what. And sometimes people think if I get a certain level of money, everything will be okay, right? And there's something to that, right? If you don't have to worry about bills, you have a little different level of
Mm-hmm.
peace than somebody who has to struggle. When me and my wife were looking through the finances and it's a tough month, that's very, very stressful. And then that compiles onto all the other stress that's going on. So if you can have money, it doesn't eliminate problems, it eliminates some of the stress. But even then, you have a greater level of something going on. So if it's not necessarily stress, maybe it's the anxiety that you might lose it all. Maybe it's I got this, but I don't have the best family life because I'm working 60 hours a week and to maintain whatever we have, and that's one thing that I wish people would understand is that, and what people know about is that it doesn't discriminate, and it comes for everybody at some point. It's just how do you want to react and handle it when those opportunities for that happen comes about.
So what advice like would you give anybody that's like struggling with anything, whether just in life in general?
Yeah, I would say this. I would say that you're worthy of your own time. I think that's one of the biggest things that I see is that people, especially as you get older, you have more responsibilities and more responsibilities, is you don't make time for yourself for whatever reason. And I think a part of addressing mental health is having time to address it. I think that's part of the process of healing is allowing yourself to heal. When you're working out, right? When I would work out, a part of the workout, probably one of the most important parts, is the recovery. So you can do more. And I think sometimes you talk about overstimulated. Sometimes we overstimulate our minds with all the stuff we have going on in our life, and we don't take a second to give our mind a break. And so one
Yes.
of the advice I would give people is figure out a way to give your mind a break and regroup so then you can handle more things.
Love it. I want to just know a little bit more about your business. Is it learning
Yeah.
to cope?
Learning to cope. Yeah. And so started in like 2017. I was working full time at a community college. After I was a bus boy and going through all that, I was kind of on the climbing out of that, and I got a part-time job at a community college and met my wife at the restaurant that we was working at. And as I was working with students in college and going back to high schools and talking, I wanted to create something where I could help people with mental health because now it dawned on me that that's what I'm struggling with. And so learning to cope, we started it, like I said, 2017. We go around and we do workshops and speeches and programming regarding mental health to businesses. We do professional developments. We go to school assemblies, athletes. We just talk to different organizations about it. And the cope is kind of fold, if you will. My last name being Copeland. In sports, everybody called me Cope.
Nice.
And then the mental health, you learning how to cope with mental health. So it's like a double meaning,
Yeah,
and it's kind of just like
but I love it.
it was like a play on words, but it kind of
Yeah,
fits so perfectly, and it was learn to cope. So that's where that comes from.
it's awesome. And do you guys like travel all over and do assemblies and that type of stuff, or do you stay in like one main area, or how does that work?
Oh, we'll go anywhere in the country.
Nice.
We've been to LA, been to Vegas, New York City, Tennessee, going and all over the Midwest, the surrounding states, Ohio, just kind of anywhere that would have us, I should say, and a lot of times a lot of it's with schools or school organization, education, whether it's staff development or because even staff, right? I could talk to the high school kids or college students or athletes about mental health and how to overcome stuff, but sometimes the staff need to hear it as well. Sometimes the staff need to understand that it's okay to take time for yourself as well, and then when you do that, you're able to be more present for the students, which that's the reason you really are doing what you're doing, is because you want to help somebody else. But sometimes you have to help yourself so you can help somebody else. And so we do that. And then when we go, we're venturing now into more corporate spaces, if you will, and professional developments there at conferences and things, kind of talking about the same thing, how to, high achievers and how to maximize your time at work and work-life balance, if there's such a thing, and how do you navigate all this crazy stuff that life has to offer while still performing at a high level at your job. And another big one that we started doing was a workshop on bridging the generational gap in the workplace and having these conversations, because I do work a lot with high school and college students who are now becoming the entry level position in corporate world. And how do you navigate that when you have a college student that just got out of college, that's just their first kind of real job, if you will? How do you navigate that and put that in the same room as somebody who's 55 and been doing the same job for 25 years? Yeah. How do you have that conversation and get them to have the same goals and reach those goals at the same time?
Awesome. Is there anything like topic or anything that you'd want to discuss that we didn't touch base on tonight?
Oh man, I don't want to say, like I said, I'm here. If you have any questions pop in your head, I would love to answer them. But now I would just want to say thank you for, allowing me to be on the podcast. And I kudos to you to trying and doing it and taking that leap of faith and just saying, I'm going to do it, because it can be hard to get with people's schedules. And sometimes they get guests on, and then you have to schedule time and the wife and the kids and trying to find a way to be quiet, so it's a lot, but kudos and hats off to you for taking that step and doing it, because you're making a difference in people that you will never even know. You'll never meet some people that you're making a difference in.
Still pretty young, so I'm hoping that I'll make a difference. Like, I'm hoping that it's just that one person sometime will be like, you know what, you changed my life, or this episode really helped me in this way.
Yeah, it will, and I would love to give you some encouragement, if I could, on not getting discouraged and stopping when things aren't going the way you think they should or hope they should. Or if you're not, for whatever reason, not getting subscribers or views and you think you should, and just don't get so discouraged that you stop.
Yeah, my wife keeps me on my toes with that one.
I love it. I love it, because a lot of times people stop right before, and I'm
that big break. Yeah.
And I'm talking to you, like kind of talking to myself through, you see what I mean? So it's like, it's sometimes people, and you hear the stories all the time of people. Walt Disney, he went to however many banks to try to get a loan and nobody gave him one. It was like 200 or something, right? Excuse me. And Oprah didn't start her show till she was a certain age, and all these things. And it can sound cliche until you're in the middle of it. It can sound like, yeah, right, until you're like, hey, we're 30 episodes in and we're getting have a couple listeners, or you're 30 episodes in and you have hundreds of listeners, and you're just like, how can I maintain this? How can I still keep them entertained, to keep them coming back? So no matter what level you're going to hit, and you're going to hit all the different levels of it, right? There's always somebody there that's going to take something from whatever you're doing, and you're providing an opportunity for that to happen. So hats off to you.
Good. Well, I thank you for the words of encouragement. It's sometimes it's a little frustrating because it's like things don't move as quick as I want them to, but then I see like, just even a couple of views here and there, like, oh, I'm doing something, I'm doing something. So it's just kind of a reminder, like, why I'm doing it.
Yeah.
So where can the listeners find you? Like Instagram, website, anything that you want to mention?
Yeah, so I have a website. You can go to my website at joshcopelandspeaks.com. That's my website. Instagram is probably the social media platform that I probably use the most that you can kind of find me at. And my Instagram is learn the number 2 and then cope. So my Instagram is learn to cope, and that's the number 2, not TO or TWO. It's learn the number 2 and then cope. I would love to connect with y'all. If you see this, message me. We can connect. I want to help, and I want to be a resource if I can be to anybody. I don't know everything, but I'll tell you everything I do know.
And everything that you just said, I will add in my show notes. So add links. So it's easy to navigate to.
Okay, I appreciate that.
Yeah. And I want to thank all of you for listening. You can find us on Instagram at Overcome Pod. We're on YouTube as well. We also post the podcast on all major podcasting platforms, Spotify, Apple, Amazon, you name it, it's probably on there. If you can go on and give us a follow, a like, a share, it really helps us out. I appreciate it. Thanks, everyone. Until next time.